I have the honor of introducing our guest speaker today. Practitioner Sonja Prince knew from an early age that she had a calling to ministry. As a child, she roamed her neighborhood, sharing and offering advice to her friends and neighbors. When her mother married a minister, she found herself organizing the youth church, creating and participating in events. And with her church board's permission, she instituted the first youth Sunday there. Every fifth Sunday, the youth were in charge of the service under Sonja's leadership, and it became a success. In 2007, she found CSL Menifee, and she and her husband of 34 years, Darryl Prince, became practitioners. She even got her children involved in the philosophy. And this prompted her to be engrossed in children's ministry, and she was able to introduce the youth-led services from her childhood. In 2013, she assisted in visioning at CSL Corona under the leadership of Reverend Liz. She was also put in charge of the music ministry. So I hear she is just a magnificent vocalist. So we'll stay tuned for that sometime. With the encouragement of Reverend Liz, she enrolled in Ministerial School at Holmes Institute for Spiritual Leadership at the San Diego campus in 2014 and 2015, and I believe that's where she met Reverend Jeff. She took a brief break, and she's now re-enrolled at the Institute and is excited about becoming an ordained CSL minister. So, please join me in giving just an amazing Riverside welcome to Sonja Prince.
Good morning. Good morning. Feedback. So I'm honored to be here with you this morning and stand before you, this beautiful sanctuary, in front of you beautiful people. So as you know, she said my name is Sonja Prince, and I am a ministerial student, and with the CSL Menifee is my home center where I hang my practitioner license. So let's just get into this topic. So this is the month of February, and February is the month of love. So the monthly theme for CSLs all across is all the colors of love. And the weekly theme is sacred sexuality. So the reason and content for this theme is that sex doesn't have to be a taboo subject in church. So let's talk about it and embrace it. Let's embrace these aspects of the divine human experience. And from the science of mind point of view, it says that pleasure is a primary quality of oneness of spirit that should be embraced in all its forms. That pleasure is a practice of mindfulness as well as an action of creation. It is a tool to tap into our potentiality as an individualized expression of spirit. So let's talk about that. So one of the things that, when I got the message from Reverend Jeffrey asking me to speak, I was like, oh yeah, of course I'll speak. I'm delighted. I was ecstatic to do that. And then he said, Sonja, I'm going to send you the topic and, some information, some books you can read and things like that. So I got that, and it said the topic for the third week of February is sacred sexuality. And any of us who has a cell phone and use emojis, you know that emoji that the big eyes and the mouth open? Well, that was me. So I I don't know, it brought up something right here in my solar plexus, and I said, let me figure out what that is and where that comes from. So one of the things that I had to do is I had to explore that in myself, because you know, as a practitioner, they tell us we need to work on ourselves before we can pray and minister to other people. So that's what I had to do. So I went into my quiet room to get some perspective, because I wanted to find out if that was stemming from my childhood. Like she said in my bio, I was used to going around the neighborhood talking to everybody because I have the gift for gab, but my stepfather was a minister of an African Episcopal Methodist Episcopal Church, and no time did I ever hear the topic sacred sexuality. So I had to figure out if it was my fear of talking about it in this forum. And the answer was yes. Because it wasn't my experience. I had never heard it before. But here I stand for you today to embrace it. I had to work through those things. So Ernest Holm in the Science of Mind text, page 231, said, "It is probable that when Jesus forgave the man his sins, he realized that the man had a complex of condemnation within himself. The sense of condemnation which is the race holds about itself weighs us down, and it must be removed. This explains why Jesus said, 'Thy sins be forgiven thee.' It is feeling that hurts. So feelings that hurts. It has been said that life is a comedy to him who thinks and a tragedy to him who feels. So all these feelings in race consciousness hurts us. So then I wanted to explore sacredness. So the definition of sacred is your divine connection with spirit, your oneness with God, and like the teaching symbol, the circle represents that oneness. And one way we can think about it is, in the Native American culture, they practice their divine oneness through ritual, through dance, and through their connections with their ancestries and the land. So that's one example of that circle. So connection with God, we learn in Science of Mind that we have learned to use meditation, affirmations, affirmative prayer, and visioning as ways to connect with the divine spirit and source. So the three pillars: affirmative prayer, meditation, and visioning. And as I was preparing for this talk, one of the things I decided to do is create a sacred space for myself to meditate, to pray, do affirmative prayer, and just to hold the space. So what I did was, in my home, there is a room up under the stairwell, and mine is really deep and it goes in a circle. So I hung some shears in there, and I put a little table, and I put my Science of Mind magazine and my Science of Mind text on it, and I have some candles, and I put a sconce in there, and some pictures on the wall, and some angel pictures on the wall, and I use that as my sacred space. And that's where I go in the morning and in the evening before I retire to settle in, ground myself. from all the day, shake off the day, and just settle in. So I did that for myself. Some other things that I do is I like to sing, as she said. I like to sing. So some of the things that I do for singing is I sing in my community. I sing for the Chamber of Commerce. If there's a Relay for Life, if they call, I sing for that. And once a month, I go to an assisted living facility and I do an hour show for the residents there. So those are the things that I do that are sacred to me. This is my passion. And the passion of singing comes through my soul. So if there's anyone, my prayer is always that let it touch at least one person. And I know that I am living my purpose, and I'm living that sacredness and that connection. So now let's kind of go into the exploration of sexuality. So the definition of sexuality is one of the things that we were born with. We do not choose it. Just like the song said, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. So that's right. Thank you, Lady Gaga. So it's part of who we are. Whether you be physically, emotionally, or sexually attracted to males, females, or even both. Only you truly know your sexuality because no one can feel the things that you feel. You feel them for yourself, so you know. So sexuality is also a state of being. It's not the act of sex that ties into emotions and feelings. It's our hopes, our dreams that makes us who we are. It defines who we are. It's part of our own unique experience and our own uniqueness. And that looks different for everyone. And I have some friends, I can't say that it's sacred for them, but I think it kind of is. So I have a friend that loves to knit, and she has these machines. And when she's in the zone, she is tuned in, tapped in, and turned on to that divine connection within her. And then I have another friend that's really into genealogy. And when she discovers something new, she is fired up. So like my singing and their connection, and my husband, who is a mentor of a teen that has been separated from his family, his mother and father. He does live with his grandmother. But when he is with him and they're talking and he's mentoring and they're just talking about everyday things, it fires him up. And then I have another friend that you know her, who loves animals, who brings baby birds to church, who brings baby birds to practitioner events. But that's who she is. We love her for who she is. So we're all unique, and we're divine emanations of the one spirit we call God. So I'll leave that there. So let's talk about sexuality a little bit more. So in our history, in the history of this country, our country, we have struggled with the term sexuality. Unless it fits the definition of the heterosexual model, it was considered taboo. To openly talk about or display other forms of sexuality in public, it was a taboo. But in recent times, through the courageous acts of the LGBTQ community, along with other support groups, they have led the fight towards an open expression of individual sexuality and equality. So a beautiful example of that acceptance is the Pride celebration that is held annually in many communities across the country. It represents a safe environment where people can openly be themselves and express their individual sexuality. So now that we have a greater understanding of sacred sexuality, we are empowered to live free and embrace our own sexuality without guilt and without shame. So, allow yourself to embrace pleasures in all areas of your life. And notice, just like I had to do, if there are any areas that you have shied away from feeling pleasure, or that you have any shame or guilt in those areas because of your pleasures. And if you find that you have guilt and shame, see if those are necessary or if they are a perpetuating idea or ideas that you've been taught. And just release the need to feel guilty for experiencing your pleasure. So seek out and engage in everyday activities that what makes you feel happy. My singing. Maybe someone's bowling. I hear the men's has a bowling group coming up. So seek out and engage in everyday activities that make you feel happiness, joy, and pleasure, knowing that by doing so, you are practicing mindfulness. You are practicing that co-creation of God. You are practicing and knowing your oneness with God. And you are practicing and knowing that it is absolutely okay. And so it is. So at this time, I want to give you an affirmation, and then I'll go into the prayer. So the affirmation to take away from the day is, I embrace my pleasure today. Can you say it with me? I embrace my pleasure today. Thank you. So I invite you to close your eyes and just go within, knowing that you are a divine emanation of God, of Spirit, knowing that you are part of the One. As the ocean flows, you are in that ocean of possibilities, that ocean of life, that ocean of love. The theme has been love, 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 all the colors of love. And as I look out in the audience, I may not know everyone's name, but I know one thing. Your name is love. So embrace yourself. Embrace all the aspect of who you are, knowing that it is okay. And I give thanks for each and every one of you who came out today to be a part of this beautiful divine appointment and this beautiful celebration, and this beautiful center, and that beautiful motto that Riverside embraces, that love lives here. God did not make any mistakes. You are right where you're supposed to be, right who you are, and it is all divine. It is all good. It is all sacred. So love yourself. And so it is. Thank you.